Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Today we have with us Susan Seale. Susan is a soul coach, strengthening connection to your eternal, highest, wisest, kindest, most compassionate self so that you can step into your business with a deeper and more grounded, powerful, committed presence. That was a mouthful. Welcome to the show, Susan. I'm so glad that you joined us today.
Oh, thank you, Jill. I'm really happy to be here.
You were telling me about the Wheel of Compassion, which is a guidebook that you've created, and we definitely want to dive into that. But first, let's hear your story. Where did you start from? How did you get to where you're at right now?
Oh, okay. Well, I was originally a teacher. I started teaching music when I was 13, and did that all through high school and university, and then I studied education and became a classroom teacher. So I did that for 10 years, and I didn't love the restriction of, I guess, being in the union. So I left and opened my own school, and I was a classroom teacher for 10 years. So I did general classroom, like grade 1, grade 2, grade 4, grade 7. But then when I opened my school, I actually opened a music school. So I had a music and movement school that was based on an ORF methodology. And I did that for 20 years. And then when I closed the school, so I worked with infants, I should say that. I worked with babies, so from 3 months of age to age 12. And I trained teachers, and I traveled, I wrote books, I published articles, I was a consultant, I studied around the world. It was a big career. And then I closed my school, and I just went back to private teaching, which I still do, actually. I travel to children's homes. Mostly I'm just teaching piano. I'm a multi-instrumentalist, so I can teach many things, and including dance and movement. I have a background in developmental movement therapy. And then when I went back to my private teaching, I started doing training to become a coach. And as I was doing coaching work, people kept saying, well, this is really awesome, but you're not really a coach. And even in my coaching training, they would tell me I was just more intuitive. And I've always been very intuitive, and I have studied with many psychics and intuition teachers. So I started just kind of moving more into that world. But I didn't love that people would think I was a psychic, because I think you need to take responsibility for your own intuition. And so I just kept studying. I you know how coaches have 4,000 modalities? I'm like that. And in the end, because of my background as a business person, being self-employed, and I've helped many women along the way to open businesses, I kind of end up helping people with their businesses. And so that's kind of how I ended up here. Somehow I ended up here. It wasn't like I decided I'm going to do this. it just like one step led to the other. And so now I was doing a lot of more healing work for a while. And I still do it. Every week I have one-to-one appointments with people, but I also now have group programs where I help women. Sensitive, intuitive women is really my wheelhouse. And so I have a money program, we have 2 business programs, and an energy alchemy program where we clear our energy every week before we start our week. So yeah. Does that make sense what I just said?
Total sense. I'm over here laughing because my website is Hart Life Coach.
Oh, okay.
I'm a life coach. Trained to be a life coach. But yeah, it's interesting how the universe just kind of sends you along this journey where you think you're headed in one direction and you're walking faithfully along there, and then suddenly you open your eyes and you're at a destination you didn't expect, and it's very beautiful, but you didn't expect to get there.
Well, and I think, if you're someone who you're trying to help people, you want to feel good doing it, and you're not actually employed by someone, you're creating what you're doing. Yeah, you can't always, yes, you can set a goal for sure. Goals are really important. But sometimes you just have to walk the path and be willing to make what's appearing bigger and better, in a sense.
Right. It's like you start with an idea of where you're going, and you start walking, and then things come to you, and then your mission becomes evident as you're taking action. It's rare that somebody's just hit with this idea and then suddenly they're doing it. It's almost always a process and a journey, and it's interesting to see. I've talked to a lot of coaches, and almost everybody is kind of the same way. It's meandering along, and we get excited about different things that are out there that I was sharing with you. Possibilities for 2024. It's just like, energetically, it's supposed to be a really great year, and I'm very excited about that.
Well, and I find I have quite a few of my clients actually have quite distinct businesses. They're not really meandering. They're artists, they're poets, they have a product-based business, or they're a massage therapist, or they're a doctor, or they are actually pretty distinct. But I think in the world of coaching, often things are a little more nebulous, and it takes a little while to find who your audience really is and who you really want to be. So definitely for me, I know when I first started, I was doing more coaching, and then I went into in-person work. So I'd studied intuitive energy massage and aromatherapy and herbalism. And so I was doing in-person work and right in my town. And then with COVID, all of that shifted, and just everything went online. And so there are things you can do better online in the coaching world or the healing world. So it changes. Yeah.
Yes, and that makes life kind of exciting.
That's one way to say, yes.
I'm the kind of person I can get bored.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly, because I don't really get bored. I just get excited about something different. My goal is to try to keep the excitement narrowed down a channel. So I wander off into the tulies.
Nice.
You were talking about your book, The Wheel of Compassion, and I think that's really fascinating. You want to talk about it a little bit, and we'll kind of go off from there.
Okay. So I have, it's free on my website when you sign up for my newsletter, which I send out weekly. But it's a book about developing self-compassion. And so I call it the Wheel of Compassion because what I list on there are all the kind of taboos that we have in our culture. So we're not really supposed to feel our feelings. That's a taboo. And so that's on the wheel that I have. You're not supposed to, or you don't feel fully deserving and worthy of big things. So you limit yourself as to what you can imagine having in your life. You're not supposed to be vulnerable or have vulnerabilities. You're supposed to be, kind of polished and perfect. Things are supposed to happen quickly, not take time. Don't process events you've been through. Just keep going. That's how we're raised in our world generally. And I think things are changing, of course, but that is the atmosphere we breathe. Don't change your mind about things. Once you decide, like in my case, you're a teacher, so you should stay a teacher for your whole life. Well, that's not the way the world works anymore. Don't really look too closely at your childhood history, because that's a waste of time. Don't listen to yourself as the highest authority. So what you want, how you feel, really how you're being led by your own soul. Don't do that. It's taboo to own your truth. You shouldn't really love yourself. Don't focus on yourself. Don't follow your interests. Don't make mistakes. Definitely don't be imperfect, right? And so in the book, I set that up so that you can kind of see that, like it's just really in your face, because all these things are unspoken. Nobody actually says to you, don't have that feeling. Well, maybe occasionally that might happen, but it's really more that we learn that by osmosis. And so this is a wheel of compassion. So it's to take a look at these things and look at your own life with compassion, so that you can make shifts for yourself, because you'll feel better, you'll get more done, you'll have more success in your work, especially in relationships, right? So it's like giving yourself a reminder, like, I care about you. You're worthy just as you are. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be polished all the time. Okay, now sometimes when I say these things, I have one of those brains that goes, but what about? And I think of, there are some times in life where you have to be pretty perfect. Like if you were a surgeon, you'd want to kind of get things right. But what I'm talking about is the softer part of your world, your more emotional world, right? And you can use that wheel in different ways, like giving yourself permission. So you could look at the wheel and say, I give myself permission to change my mind. I give myself permission to have big things in my life. I give myself permission to make a mistake. So you can do that. You can do shadow work with it and just kind of journal through, pick something on the wheel. And because I actually have set it up so it looks like a wheel. So each one of the things has a little piece of the pie. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I use it with clients. Sometimes I have it open on my computer when I'm talking to them, just to remind myself, you know what? We're into this area where we need to bring some compassion in for whatever they're talking about. And also, there's something about that wheel. When I read it, it reminds me that I'm human, that I need to be human with my clients. And it changes my nervous system. So it's that principle where, like, I can feel you. You and I are on Zoom here, and I can feel your energy. You can feel my energy. because we're human and that's what our nervous systems do. They regulate with one another. I can feel you feeling me. And you can feel me feeling you. And so looking at a chart like that can help you to calm your nervous system. At least for me as a coach or a healer, I can read that before I come to a session and just remind myself, oh, okay, we're just people here. And that makes me a better coach.
I can see how that would work that way. And as you were reading through some of the different aspects of it, I was thinking about how often those paradigms have been instilled in us when we were young. And, the one about don't look at your childhood. Well, if you look at your childhood, you'd realize that somebody told you somewhere along the line all of these lies. And, when you're talking about don't show your emotions, well, they told you big girls don't cry. And so you take that with you, even though, there are situations where sometimes you may just need to cry to get the release. We have physical reactions. Their emotions are a chemical reaction in your body, and they cause a physical reaction to take place, just on the sciencey end of it. And sometimes tears happen, and the whole big girls don't cry thing, it's like, well, sometimes they do. Sometimes you should just shake to get rid of the energy that your body has produced as a response to something that you heard or felt or saw. It's just the way we were created. So you do need to feel your feelings.
If you do any kind of study of somatic healing, you'll find out there's a fellow who's written a book, just forgotten the name of the book, Stanley Rosenberg, and he talks about how a negative thought actually affects the muscles in your neck and your head, and you will become dysregulated just by having a negative thought. And yeah, it's very, these are all really kind of basic things, right? But
they're not things we're taught.
No, it's not like someone necessarily, it's not like everybody is probably not affected by someone saying, well, be a big girl. So maybe they like that, but maybe another personality would be affected more negatively by that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just that the way our whole society kind of has, it's like the whole, I guess, the patriarchal kind of energies that we've grown up in, that creates a certain atmosphere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Certain things are okay. Certain things are not okay. When I have a client that I'm working with, even in like one of the group programs, someone will say, well, I've been working on this so long, like how long is this going to take? And that's actually a clue that they've internalized something on that wheel, that it shouldn't take so long. But actually things just take as long as they take. And they actually seem to go faster if you don't turn a negative perspective on them, if that makes sense. So yeah,
it's kind of like the particle that behaves differently when you're watching it.
Yes, that's true. That's very true.
Getting stuff done in your life and making changes in your life happens faster if you're not watching the process.
Totally. Oh my God. Well, I know everyone's so different. Like when you come I've been in so many different programs myself, and I often find I just don't feel like I'm good enough because I do things my own way. And you can be in a business program where someone will tell you it should be done this way, or everyone has to do this. And I just think of one program I have right now, and there's one woman, I just said, I don't actually think you need a website, because she's just starting something new, and she's a channeler. And I just thought, you don't really need a website. I think what you need is exposure, and you need to be on podcasts, and you need to go into different kinds of social media groups, and get interviewed by different people, and have a YouTube channel, because you don't need a website. You just need a link for people to book with you. People pretty much know what a channeler does, and once they see you talking, they'll be like, oh, I want to talk to her, and they'll just book an appointment and come and see you. Where other people, yes, they should have a website. Some artists, they don't have websites because they're just on Instagram, or they're on TikTok, or however they're managing their art,
or Etsy or whatever.
or whatever. Yeah, Etsy. So yeah, I guess I really kind of approach my clients as individuals, even when they're in a group program. Everybody's different. So you need to find a way to work with everybody that way.
I agree with you. And I love group programs, but not usually the way most people think you should like group programs. I love them because when I'm in them myself, I've met so many interesting people. And it's the people that are in the group that make the magic of the group, not the person who's leading the group. It's the connections that you can make, and your horizons can just broaden so much faster when you have more people that are kind of all traveling on the same path, because they'll have questions that you didn't even think of that'll be like, oh, wow, okay, if I just had done that, I could get this result. And it's so exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you.
You have a couple of groups, right? You have like your energy clearing group, and
I have a group called Inspirata. It's a 12-week program, and so we work on branding and messaging and all kinds of things. And that group also does my energy group on Monday. So they meet Monday and Friday. And they tend to be women who are earning under 5K a month. And then I never thought I would have this kind of a program, but I had people kept repeating Inspirata because they loved it so much. And then I was asked by some of the women, could you start another program for us? And so I have another program called The Owner. And it's called The Owner because they all come in with that energy of, I own this business. And they're starting to make more money, and we work on marketing, and we meet, we have 4 different sort of sessions a week. There's the energy session Monday. There's a mastermind on Tuesday. Thursday, we have co-working for 2 hours. And Friday is a spotlight coaching. And not everybody comes to every call. Some people come once a week only. Some people come to every call. Some people just like the co-working. And I've set it up and priced it so that even if you only come a couple of times a month, you still are getting value for what you're paying for. But it's an amazing program. They're making so much progress. I'm so glad I'm doing it. I never thought I would do a program like that. And then I have another program called Money Priestess, where we work on money healing, money mindset, and we work on things like how you manage the money that you make in your business. So different kinds of, I guess, accounting type thing. But it's a system, money systems. And so that's actually a great place to enter into my world, because it's a lifetime membership. And so you enter in, and we have coaching, live coaching every Wednesday morning Pacific time. So I have people all over the world in that program, and some people come once a month, some people come every week. And so we do different things in that program. It's quite varied. We do Akashic Records readings at the beginning of every month. The money system work, money healing work. Yeah, there's quite a lot that goes on there.
So fascinating how many aspects there are to being an entrepreneur. There's this baseline where you have to know all these technological things,
Yeah.
which are always changing. Always. Today was Monday, and I woke up to my server had been changed, and so my website was down.
Yes.
Just what you want to know before you have coffee. But it it was a simple fix. I just, took me 5 minutes, but it's just that just one layer. And then there's the whole mindset expansion layer where
Yes.
you have to like grow your mind and grow your being, who you are being along the journey, because that changes too. Your identity changes. And you didn't just wake up one day and become this soul coach helping entrepreneurs really connect between their
No.
alignment and actually creating a business out of it. You have this whole journey that you already had gone on, and it's different, but some of the concepts are all the same. You had an identity as a teacher and as a business owner and as a private coach, and so you've got all of these other pieces. It's like I look at creating a successful business as kind of like the iceberg. You see all these people that are, at the very tip where they're, all this success that's happened to them. Well, there's this huge mountain underneath of of skills and things they've gone through and things they've accomplished and challenges that they've overcome to get to that little tiny piece sticking out above the ocean.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Yes. And I think for me, I mean, I'm in my 60s now. So that's a big life to have already had. So most of my clients are definitely younger than me, quite a bit younger. But I think that one of the things they like about working with me is that I've had so much life experience and business experience. And so if I were to actually tune into the soul of your business or someone's business, it's a very different kind of thing than, when we're looking at a website or we're talking about an offer. Like, it's actually looking at the energetics behind your website or the energetics in you. And I had a masterclass in September, and I had quite a few, like, I don't know, over 50 people signed up for it. Not everyone could come live, but I offered a free session, as we often do after a masterclass. And almost every call I had, the women I spoke with did not feel aligned with their business name. Now, not every call, but almost every call. And I'd say, I'm really confused. There's just this confusion about this name. And they'd say, oh, yeah, like, I don't like the name, or I've been thinking I should use my own name. And it was just fascinating to me how it actually showed up energetically. So I think that's part of my skill set, is probably what sets me apart from a lot of other types of coaches. And now, what do I want to say about that? I'm sitting here going, yeah. I'll just leave it there for now.
It's kind of important. And I think sometimes people think that they need to come up with a name when they're just starting out, and they haven't really arrived at what it is that they do yet. I see that a lot with coaches. They know that they can solve this problem. They're not real clear on who they're going to solve it for, or exactly how they know how to solve it, but they can solve it for like anybody. But instead of figuring out how they're going to solve it for one person and what that one person's problem looks like to that person, so that they can recognize that they're suffering from the problem so that they can get it solved, they just come up with a name, and it's like and they want to build a website and have cards made, but they haven't really even gotten
and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to start somewhere. And that's like, if we go back to that wheel of compassion, it would be, you're allowed to make mistakes, and you're allowed to be imperfect, and you're allowed to be in process. It just doesn't feel that good. Yeah, you have to change. Like, you start and then you change. And that's what happened to me. That seems to be what happens to everyone. I know there's a woman in my programs right now who she'll say, oh, I was hiding behind that name. And suddenly, after being in, this container for a few months, she's, oh, I'm ready to use my name. And now everything's changing. Mm-hmm. There's this, if you can find a program in a community, if you like group programs and you want one, if you can find one where you can relax and let yourself be your real self, everything changes. I just find everything changes, because often we go into things and we're hustling, or that's what I see. I see women hustling, and that's not actually, sometimes I guess you have to move like that to get clients, but actually I found it's the opposite, that when you actually get really relaxed and just get calm, everything slows down and gets clear. And then once you're clear, then you can hustle.
And it doesn't have to be hustle forever.
No, but in a sense, I think people think, well, you have to kind of have that energy, that sort of masculine outward energy, and you do need to do things or you won't have clients. But there is something about sitting back and I don't mean do nothing. I mean, let your nervous system get really calm and get in touch with that voice that I think everyone has. It's like Michael Singer will talk about that. He's the fellow who wrote The Untethered Soul, the author. So that reactive energy, that reactive self that we have, that's talking to you all the time. You're not doing enough. What are you doing? How is this going to happen? I'm not making enough money. This terrible thing is going to happen. Like, it is all the bad news. It's a bad news voice, but it's just an energy that runs through us. And if you can see that you're not that's actually just a mind thing, and let yourself get really relaxed and present, really present, I think it's just easier. That's what I've seen with all my clients. The ones who really start to move forward, this happens. They just kind of drop some kind of cloak that they've been wearing, a cloak of, I don't know what it is, some kind of energy.
It's kind of like the cloak of invisibility.
Well, they definitely have that. Some have that. Not all have that, but it's
they want to be visible, but they're afraid to be visible. It's like, if you
that's a different thing. That's actually a different thing, but that's definitely true. But this piece of just getting really still with yourself, like,
oh yeah,
that's different. Yeah.
Oh, that's not the invisibility thing I was talking about. Being still is absolute must. You have to be able to even plan time in your day for just like backing off and reflection, not doing, because it's easy to get off on a tangent or get lost in the weeds if you don't stop and reflect on what's the big picture and what do your guides say?
Yeah.
Check in.
Or just clean off your desk because there's too much paper. Like,
yeah, or that.
Just taking time. Yeah, totally. I get that.
Run the vacuum. Something needs vacuuming. So where can people get in touch with you, Susan? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, I have a website, susanseale.com. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but the website is probably the easiest because I'm there, and there you can send me an email through there. My email, susan@susanseale.com. Seal with an E, like the animal, but with an E. So that would be probably the easiest way.
Awesome. And what's the one thing you'd like to leave the audience with today?
Well, you have permission to create the life you want. If you need permission, you have it. You have it from me anyway.
I'll back you up with that. Thank you so much for joining me today, Susan.
Thank you, Jill. So nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at the You World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.